Well. One of the biggest dominoes heading into this offseason has fallen, and that is what is going to happen to Russell Wilson. A trade has been announced that Russell Wilson has been traded to the Denver Broncos. The trade package includes Seattle getting Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a 5th-round pick. And the Broncos are getting Russell Wilson and a 4th-round pick in this trade. It is a blockbuster move. It is a surprising move, but nonetheless, the news is broken and the trade has happened. And in today's video, we're not going to only talk about what this means for the Denver Broncos, but also what this means for the Seattle Seahawks going forward. But before I get into that, make sure you guys leave this video a like, as that always helps this channel to grow. And as always, click that subscribe button and notification bell so you will not miss a single video. But let's get into this blockbuster trade. Without further ado, let's dive into it.
I'm striving to get rich. That's why I almost went 2 years without buying shoes and fits. Things change now. My mom hearing me with my music and she look a little prouder.
First, let's talk about this trade from the Seattle Seahawks standpoint. The Seattle Seahawks with this trade essentially go into rebuild mode. They do get quarterback Drew Lock out of the deal, but that still puts them in the need for a quarterback. Drew Lock, in my opinion, is more of a backup quarterback than he is a starting quarterback. Drew Lock is not one of those type of guys that's going to get this Seattle Seahawks team to be any type of competitive in the NFC West division when you have the Niners, when you have the Cardinals, and the defending Super Bowl champion Rams. This team, as constructed now, is definitely looking like a last place team. Now, you do have Bobby Wagner, but his situation is still up in the air. Jamal Adams on your defensive side of the ball. Quandre Diggs is coming off of a Pro Bowl. But this defensive unit for the Seahawks still has some issues. And then on top of that, you don't have Russell Wilson anymore. Even though you do have a good wide receiver duo in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, you really are not going to be one of those top flight offenses without Russell Wilson. So quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks is going to be a need that still has to be addressed because Drew Lock isn't it. Now, they do get Noah Fant out of the deal because I believe Noah Fant is one of the up-and-coming better tight ends in the NFL, and getting him into the Seahawks offense, I'll say it, if you can get them a good quarterback, can help them. But Pete Carroll is heading into this age 70 year, and his future is still up in the air as whether he's going to return or not. So the best thing for the Seahawks was to trade Russell Wilson and get themselves in a bit of a rebuild mode. Now, they still have some talent, but that offensive line for the Seattle Seahawks has been a huge problem over the last couple of years. Even though they've had some successful seasons, Russell Wilson behind that line took a ton of hits, and that was part of his frustration with the Seattle Seahawks organization, is because that offensive line was not addressed. Even though Dwayne Brown is one of the better tackles in the game, he is himself heading into free agency and is looking up in the air right now as whether he is going to return to the franchise or not. So the Seattle Seahawks with this trade still leave themselves a ton of questions and actually add even more questions, but a rebuild for the Seattle Seahawks team is going to be much needed because the Legion of Boom is no longer there. The defense is no longer strong. With Russell Wilson gone, the offense is not going to be the same offense. So it's going to be time to rebuild this roster right now. And with a lot of the draft picks that the Seahawks have obtained for the Denver Broncos, they're going to have the assets to probably go after a big-time quarterback or draft one within the future, maybe this year, maybe next year. They have the draft picks, they have the assets to address some of their needs and build this roster from ground up, because as this roster is constructed now, it's not going to compete in that NFC West. So the best thing for them to do is to rebuild from ground up without Russell Wilson. Now, looking at this trade from the Denver Broncos standpoint, they did give up an absolute haul to get Russell Wilson out of Seattle, which includes Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, 2 seconds, and a 5th. But you are getting Russell Wilson, one of the top-notch quarterbacks that we have in the NFL today. And the Denver Broncos has been quarterback needy ever since Peyton Manning has retired. And to get Russell Wilson, Denver Broncos fans, if I were you, I would be celebrating right now because you finally get that quarterback that you have been long needing since the Peyton Manning era. But one of the weapons that was enticing to any quarterback to come to Denver was Noah Fant, and he's going to be part of this trade, which is a little bit of a surprise to me because Noah Fant, I believe, is one of the better up-and-coming tight ends that we have in the NFL today. He's a solid blocker. He's very good at the pass receiving. So one of those young tight ends that was enticing for any quarterback is no longer there, but you have Russell Wilson to offset all of that. And when you look at this Denver Broncos offense, you have a lot of weapons at the wide receiver position to go along with him, where you have Jeudy, Courtland, Sutton, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler. So you have a lot of weapons, and not to add Javonte Williams coming out of the backfield. So this Denver Broncos offense is really going to be explosive in my opinion because Russell Wilson is one of the best deep ball throwers that we have in the league today. Now, the Broncos, I always believe, were a quarterback away from really being contenders in that AFC West, and they just got that quarterback in Russell Wilson. Now, they're still going to have to compete with Kansas City. They're still going to have to compete with the Chargers, who's a very good team in that division as well, and as well as the Raiders, who just came off a playoff appearance. So that AFC West is going to be absolutely stacked with quarterback talent, stacked with talented players, and it's going to be a very tough role for this young Denver Broncos team. But you add a veteran quarterback like Russell Wilson, one of the more prolific quarterbacks that we have in the NFL today, not only with his scrambling ability, but as well as his ability to attack teams in the passing game. This Denver Broncos team just elevated themselves out of that last place spot in the AFC West. So looking at the trade from the Denver Broncos perspective, yes, they did give up a ton. They did give up a haul. But at the end of the day, you're getting Russell Wilson, one of the top-notch quarterbacks that we have in the NFL today. So I can look at this trade from both perspectives. I think both teams are coming out as winners in this trade. Of course, Denver Broncos, they're getting Russell Wilson. The Denver Broncos are getting a quarterback that they needed. But I think Seattle can come out as winners of this trade as well because you get tight end Noah Fant. You get him to pair with DK Metcalf. You get him to pair with Tyler Lockett. And you get a lot of draft assets to help rebuild this roster from ground up, which is going to be needed, especially with the change and the turnover that is probably going to happen at some point in Seattle, with Pete Carroll probably going to be no longer there at some point. If this Russell Wilson trade is approved by Russell Wilson, it is going to be a rebuilding time in Seattle. So I believe both teams can come out as winners. Of course, the Broncos are going to win, and they're going to do things right away. But the Seattle Seahawks are positioning themselves to not only have some success and stay a little bit afloat now, but they have positioned themselves to rebuild this roster from ground up and make different moves because of the draft assets that they have obtained in this trade. So I think both teams can come out as winners. But hey, that's just my opinion on this whole Russell Wilson trade. If you guys leave this video a like, that helps this channel to grow tremendously. Comment you guys' thoughts down below on this trade. What do you think from each team's perspective? And as always, click that subscribe button and notification bell so you would not miss a single video. But this is APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys stay safe, have a great next day, and I'll catch you guys in the next vid. Peace.